number one, last week I showed you the paper of the last 17 years, and it wasn't the 3 years in a row when we had to raise taxes 3%. It was actually only 1 year of not raising taxes that we had to raise it the following year 3.55%. And that happened more than once. So definitely looking at our history. Also, we are, I think, Dr. Bell, correct me if I'm wrong, I think we're like 430th out of 500 districts in our state in lowest taxes. Is that around 430?
I would say in the 400s. I haven't checked lately.
Okay. So
I do want to ask a question. We only, in the numbers that I provided, there was only 1 year in those years that we only went zero. In 17 years.
2002.
Yeah.
2006, 2007, 2009.
Yeah, I'm just saying those are together. It was 1 year separate.
Right. So after 2002 and 2003, it was 3.55. After the 3 years, it was 3.25, then 3.7735, and then the year that we went down to 1.7, then it went up to 5.
Right. I just want to make sure everybody's clear. Those are years in a row that there was zero.
Yeah.
There's only 1 year that there was
just
separate.
one.
Correct. And
I will gladly share this.
Yes.
Anybody who wants
That
to
was
see it.
only one.
Okay, so number 2, we are 430th, around there, out of 500 districts. So it's not like we're up there or we're even halfway. We're pretty low in taxes. Also, I've been on the board for 6 years, and for the last 6 years, it's been preached to us that it is better to raise taxes a little every year. And that the reason we lost federal funding after these 3 years, 2006 through 2008, was because the federal government determined since we didn't need our residents' money, we also didn't need theirs. Number 4, last year after settling a contract with the teachers, we were told we wouldn't have money to pay for the contract this year. So that's another reason why I'm thinking, okay, so I think that's reason. Number 5, the wish list. I went through the wish list. It was 29 pages long. On page 7, for the Ag Department, they're requesting that we fix the leaking pole barn roof and repair the water hydrant that has not been working, and they've requested that for a long time. Pages 16 and 17 for the Music Department, they're requesting that we replace curtains that have holes and are currently being held together by safety pins and duct tape, and update the unsafe ancient wiring system that supports the lighting that had sparks this summer. Also, because we have chosen to hire only a part-time general music teacher to replace the 2 full-time music teachers that retired, the band program has had to be, and this is what they said, dumbed down because there's no time for giving lessons. Page 22, for the middle school and high school, we have only 1 nurse who takes care of 6th through 12th grades, which is an extremely large load, and she has no lunch break. Not to mention, and these are things that stood out to me. I'm not saying these are the most important things. These are just things that I was just like, oh really? That's not a wish list, I wouldn't think. Page 29, requests from the elementary schools for a guidance counselor, since we only have 1 to cover all 4 schools. I'm not exactly sure how she gets anything done. And I know she does, because she's here until like 9 o'clock at night every night. And a full-time kindergarten teacher, so we can actually offer full-day kindergarten for kids who need it, which is what we said we were going to do in order to convince people that we needed that kindergarten center that we now have. So those are some things on the wish list that I'm thinking, wow, like you said, they're not exactly wishes. I think that some of those things could be considered needs. And then number 6, as we found out last week from the LRTA request, I think that's great that we have this LRTA money coming, but it's not guaranteed. Like the one last week, they were telling us that it didn't pan out, that for 3 years it sat there because they couldn't get a buyer. So it's not guaranteed money. And then number 7, if I were resigning from this board as of June 30th or retiring, I would say we wouldn't need a tax increase because I wouldn't be here to have to live with this decision. But I'm not going anywhere, and I have to live with this decision, and I want to see us have the kind of education that I think we need to provide for our kids. So those are some reasons that are I think there are good rationale for a slight tax raise. Of course, I don't want any, but now that we look at all of those facts, I think it makes sense.
Any other discussion? If not, we'll call the vote.
Howe,
No.
Erdman,
Yes.
Lund,
No.
Murray,
Yes.
England,
Yes.
Peckman,
No.
Bell,
Yes.
Gray,
Yes.
Bixler.
No.
4 noes, 5 yeses. Motion carried.
Anything else for the management committee? Dr. Stein? Programs committee, Dr. Bain.
I move item A.
Second.
Discussion? Call the vote.
Erdman,
Yes.
Lund,
Yes.
Murray,
Yes.
England,
Yes.
Peckman,
Yes.
Sal, Gray,
Yes.
Bixler, Howe.
No.
8 yes, 1 no, motion carried.
Did I say no?
Yes. did
I
you
was doing
say-
the budget, so I'm sorry, I want to do that.
Okay. All in favor?
What's in English?
I was thinking about my retirement.
I move item B.
Second.
Discussion? Call the vote.
Lund,
Yes.
Murray,
Yes.
England,
Yes.
Peckman, Sal,
Yes.
Gray,
Yes.
Bixler,
Yes.
Howe,
Yes.
Erdman.
Yes.
All in favor.
Item C.
Second.
Discussion? Call the vote.
Murray,
Yes.
England,
Yes.
Peckman,
Yes.
Sal,
Yes.
Gray,
Yes.
Bixler,
Yes.
Howe,
Yes.
Erdman,
Yes.
Lund.
Yes.
All in favor.
At this time, we'll have an administrative presentation on the materials having to do with, I think, D and E.
Very identical, but they're two different quotes. One is for the right, one is for my perspective. So, one and after, I think this is ready, so you're not using that. They look identical. And I am going to use this. Okay. I'm going to present on some of the, well, all of the proposed middle school ELA resources that are on the agenda. I'm going to kind of take a similar approach to those, obviously to the board and for anybody else that was here for the elementary research and proposals. So I'm going to kind of start, I think we've seen this before. This is kind of where we are with, well, this is where we are with ELA K-12. We're year 2, so just kind of a refresher. We're cycle year 2, writing approval phase. Some of the things that occur in that phase. This, again, similar to the elementary process, this kind of sums up the identified needs and goals I'd like to refer to. Came up with pretty much the number 1 and 2 were goals and more so needs that were identified by various stakeholders, obviously middle school teachers through our curriculum meetings. Meetings and conversations with high school teachers on things that they saw and felt were needs for those students that were working their way up to the high school level. And obviously conversations with administration and research. What are other school districts doing? What do we currently have in place? When was the last time we purchased resources? All that good stuff that goes into looking at recommendations. Number 2 is kind of a subtopic of number 1. These are the specific needs in terms of ELA that were identified to me as a curriculum coordinator for the middle school ELA department. Specific needs that were mentioned, again, through those conversations with middle school teachers, high school teachers, administration. Obviously, there's data out there that would support that these were legitimate concerns in the realm of grammar, writing, and reading strategies. So overall, it takes us kind of to the identified goals. Look at supplemental resources to support student learning, obviously. I'm going to talk about 2 specific products that are made by the same company. And again, stop me at any point. I'm going to try to make this as exciting as possible. When you look at textbooks and programs and stuff like that, it's not always the most exciting stuff. But I feel like through this process, I have found it very exciting in a weird way. My Perspectives is a program. It comes in digital format. Let me back up. My Perspectives is a program that is a Pearson program. Pearson is, I think we're all familiar with Pearson. It's one of the largest companies, textbook companies. It's been around a long time. I think currently it controls 60% of the textbook market. They have a program called My Perspectives, along with many other programs. This program is designed specifically to meet Common Core needs, starting in grade 6 and it goes all the way up to grade 12. The program is designed to promote, in their words, next generation learning and college career readiness. Some of the key features are there. Hopefully they can be seen. Topic-based units, and I'll show you an example of what I mean by this. Topic-based units driven by essential questions. The structure is pretty much incorporating whole group, small group, independent learning with performance-based assessments, multi-genre classic and contemporary reading assignments, incorporation of close reading strategies, evidence log for note-taking, vocabulary, network strategies, and performance tasks. I'll kind of show you what this looks like in a second. And finally, activities designed to inspire thoughtful conversation, discussion, and debate. More or less, Pearson, like many companies, have come along and said, we need to meet the 21st century learner. We have to meet Common Core expectations. And this is their program. This is one of their programs. So I'm going to kind of just go away from this for a second and show you how it's designed. We have a sample text there. This is a My Perspectives 6th grade, same cover as what's on the table. This is 6th grade, and at the end I'll kind of sum up. This is a recommendation for 6th grade, and I'll talk specifically about 6th grade a little more. It mentioned the layout in that last slide. I kind of just want to explain this so everybody's on the same page. My Perspectives they create 5 to 6 units that are based around what they consider an engaging theme. And then that theme will drive those units and the goals and the expectations. In grade 6, there are 5 units. Okay, so I'll take you down to the one, they're all engaging in my opinion, but the one that stood out to me. So for example, Unit 4, Imagination. So that's the theme. Everything in Unit 4, which is, it's gonna consist of various topics, various strategies, various expectations, and at the end, various assessments. But again, at the beginning, you have your whole class, your small group, and then your individual instruction that, in my opinion, would help guide teachers. You see some of the titles there, and that's why I showed you this. I think when you look at a resource like this, you want to know, what are the meat and potatoes of that resource. So in Unit 4, Imagination, you see some of the authors mentioned. Lewis Carroll. Obviously, we know that name from Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. This is not Disney's Alice in Wonderland. This is the original stuff. I think in Unit 6, you're going to see Frank Baum. Obviously, we know Baum from Wizard of Oz. So you're seeing the original text, very novel-driven text that compiles this resource. So you see, like through the whole class learning, students would be exposed to, drama. Through, I think in that example would be, you have your plays that are mentioned. Obviously, you have novel excerpts. You have poetry. You have a lot of multimedia options here. So this is, again, I'm not going to bore everybody with this. This is those meat and potatoes that I mentioned. I mean, this is it. This is a teacher text for my perspective. So that gives you a little bit of an idea what it consists of. Again, those 5 units. To me, and this is my philosophy throughout this process, the most valuable research that I look at is it comes from the people that are in the trenches, the people that are using it. So I've reached out to districts, and to be honest with you, to kind of find out what other districts are using, a lot of it is just a Google search. It's typing in a program, it's typing in a school district, it's looking at curriculum resources, it's emailing people you know, it's sending surveys out. I spoke to 5 districts total. I had very in-depth conversations with people at North Schuylkill. I'm very familiar with North Schuylkill. I worked there for a few years. I believe in that district. I grew up in that district. I have family that go to that district. So most important thing, I could contact those people and they knew me. So I had long conversations with their curriculum supervisor. They adopted my perspectives in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. And I'm not going to read word for word. There's a lot of positive there. They're more or less, at least in terms of their curriculum supervisor, very happy with it. Talked to a teacher there, a 6th grade teacher, coincidentally. Again, a lot of positive feedback. Some of the things that stick out to me are the strong assessments. When you see the teachers are happy with the assessments. They're challenging, they're rigorous. They're being exposed to material that they're going to see come testing time. That goes a long way. So I went from North Schuylkill, and I spent some time talking to a district down in suburban Philly, North Penn. It's one of the top districts in the state. Again, some different demographics, but again, this is actually one of the first districts to adopt my perspectives. They have it 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th. I'm not sure about 10th, 11th, 12th, but I know this goes through their 9th grade program. Schools like Pottsgrove, North Penn, Chamonix, I believe. A lot of those districts were the first to adopt it in the Philadelphia area. So I had conversations with their curriculum supervisor, very happy with it. The other resource that you have quotes for in front of you, again, this came out through conversations with middle school staff, high school staff. Research was the Prentice Hall Writing Coach. This would be a resource that would be tentatively, upon approval, would be put in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. What's neat about the Prentice Hall Writing Coach is, again, it's digital, and I'll sum that up at the end. But it individualizes more or less the student learning, and it's going to help guide teachers, in my opinion, and in the opinion of the people that have looked at it. It provides instant feedback. I think it's really going to build those writing skills, but at the same time, those comprehension skills, all those other reading strategy skills that kind of coexist with each other and correlate with each other. Digital features with the writing coach. Again, it is a digital program. It could be purchased as a digital program. That is my recommendation if we would go this route. Again, you have the opportunity for some diagnostic and practice tests that would assess skills for our students, help provide immediate feedback, and ultimately with any product, with anything, any resource, we need to use assessments to drive instruction. I mean, that's best practice, and we know that. We need to do that. I think this is just a resource that's going to help give teachers some easy to read data that they can then put into action, which would be the goal. So the most important stuff, I guess, when it comes to the adoption process. Both programs, the recommendation would be a 6-year digital subscription. If you remember the elementary presentation that I did, same thing, 6-year digital, that's the recommendation. They don't do anything less. North Schuylkill and North Penn actually went with 8 years. I thought 6 years was a good starting point. That was the number we stuck with elementary, so I felt that was fitting. Teacher techs. So in other words, if these programs go through, this would be your only hard copy resource. This is it, teacher text. This would only be in 6th grade. So you would have, every 6th grade teacher would get the teacher text, everything else would be student digital, okay? So in other words, you're breaking this down, students would not have that textbook, they would have that digital component on their device. I have a conference call set up, Mr. McGee, myself, representatives from Pearson. We're going to continue to test out what it would look like on our devices here, but according to the conversations I've had, there shouldn't be any issues in terms of that. I don't know what's the best tech word. I don't want to. Compatible. Perfect. So we're going to have that confirmed, but I don't foresee any issues. Both programs offer strong online assessment components. Through that digital process, kind of like, again, going back to the Wonders, the Super Kids, teachers have that data. It's going to be user-friendly, and then they can put that into action. That's the goal, have that drive instruction. Professional development that would come with these programs, we have one day that would be part of the purchase. That day would, I would assume would be in August, and we would have our teachers trained on this program, those middle school teachers, as well as the teachers that would be using the writing coach, which would be 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. So just to kind of sum that up, you would have 6th grade getting my perspectives, you would have 6th, 7th, and 8th grade using the supplemental resource of the writing coach. There were some supplemental resources that were also recommended through the middle school teachers. 3 of these, and again, you should have these obviously on the agenda. These were not in the quotes that I gave. These are, if you want to call, smaller items. Again, definition of supplemental resources. You have vocabulary. It's an online subscription to a library of songs, videos, and activities to build literacy skills. I know last week a question came up about some of these things. Just want to kind of define what they are. You see vocabulary on a piece of paper. That just kind of gives some background info on what it is. It would be a subscription for the middle school. They would have access to it, kind of similar to any other digital subscription that our teachers use at times. Mini dictionaries, 100 words, every middle schooler should know. These would be mini dictionaries that would support vocabulary exposure. And third recommendation were funds to purchase books for individual classroom libraries. That original number last week was $10,500. Having conversations with Mr. Reese, we looked at what Mr. Reese could do out of his, again, I don't want to use the wrong terminology, but what he could do out of his building, specific dollars, and what we could recommend here. So that's why we dropped that number. That's why we put that $7,500. We thought that we could still meet the needs of some of the Mr. Reese can do. And I know he gets creative with like Scholastic Warehouse and that kind of stuff, and he's able to provide money to his teachers.
Is that curriculum supplement the one-time cost, or is that per year?
The recommendation would be per year. Would be $3,000 per year. It was not specified how many. It was not specified through our conversations how many years we would request $3,000.
So this is for this year. And
Be for this year.
$3,000 next
The intent of the recommendation was as an annual request.
So next year you come back and request again.
I see the price on these. Is that a one-time price, $21,000?
Yes, for 6 years. That would cover us for 6 years. Yeah.
Rachel, last week this was all one, D&E work was one letter. What changed between last Tuesday and this Tuesday that is now two letters?
We separated them because
E is supplemental, whereas D is more core curriculum, core curriculum materials, whereas E is more supplemental extra.
I requested something.
Okay. Well, maybe I should ask you the
Sorry,
question.
I mean, you're,
Yes, yeah.
yeah. That's why I had, I know with Pearson, the My Perspectives programs being on there, I didn't see that as an unusual request at all, considering K-5 and what we approved for them finally, tonight. The supplemental materials were different than we had for K-5. So I felt like it was more important to have the core be reflected as a different agenda item than the supplemental materials.
And is a recommendation from whoever's committee, are you supporting both of these, D and E?
I think we have not met since this. My opinion, while listening tonight, is for definitely to support D, because that reflects what we did in the elementary school. E seems supplemental, so I think that's.
Are the teachers all on board with this? Last week, I probably spoke out of turn. They had mentioned it, and I kind of said we should support it. And I did that thinking, so many times you guys bring something to the board and we kind of shoot it down. My first instinct was, hey, let's support it. And then Amy mentioned the price, and then I realized it's even more, I think, than what she had mentioned. Are all the teachers on board with going this route?
I don't know if it's fair, I'm not in the, and maybe this is a very broad answer, maybe not the best
And the
answer.
teachers are the ones that are in the classroom.
Right.
Are
And
the
I'm-
ones that are able to know if it's working, will it work, will it not work? So I guess I'm wondering, are the teachers together on this?
And I should have said this, and not, and I do want to answer it, but this might make sense too, and maybe I should have started with this. It was not up there, but it was in my brain, it just didn't come out the right way. Sixth grade, just to kind of refresh memories, sixth grade is kind of in that gray area when it comes to, in my opinion, in conversations with Mr. Reese, in that gray area when it comes to resources. When sixth grade, my understanding went to middle school. They took the Houghton Mifflin resources with them. So if you recall back to, the elementary side of things, we obviously did not go the route of Houghton Mifflin this year. The recommendation was obviously two different programs that were not Houghton Mifflin. In my opinion, that was not the best resource out there. So that put sixth grade in kind of, from the beginning of the curriculum process this year, put sixth grade in that kind of question mark. What do we do? Are they more elementary? No, not really. They're more middle school. So let's kind of step our game up with resources in that grade level. And I thought that, we started there because, again, they didn't really have anything that was, if you want to call it unified maybe. To answer the question, I'm not in the, I don't want to speak for any individual middle school teacher, and this is, I'm not deflecting this on anybody else. I'm not in that building. I'm in that building for curriculum meetings. I don't evaluate them. I don't see them in action. So do I think majority is on board for the My Perspectives? Yes. That's the sense I have from my conversations with the middle school team.
Are we able to, through PSSA scores, are we able to see what's working in which classroom and what's not working?
You all would have had, boy, in the fall, every identification, actually by teacher and classroom, of the actual PSSA scores. So it would have been distributed. We certainly can provide that again.
I guess I'm thinking if we have teachers that are doing well, and they would collaborate with other teachers. If I was a teacher and my kids weren't doing as well as other teachers, I'd be going to those teachers and say, hey, what are you doing because your kids are doing better than my kids? And finding out what they're doing to improve their test scores. And so I guess I'd like to see either the classes or what teachers performing, maybe others, and what are they doing different than the other teachers that aren't maybe performing up to where we want to see. And Is that a reasonable request to see if, I mean, some teachers are cutting it.
We have the data was already produced, we just have to go back and look through it, so, yeah.
I'll probably have that too.
I think that a couple of things. I absolutely agree at looking at what's successful and what's not. I feel confident that the administrator should make the recommendation to us about what curriculum and materials are utilized, going back to what Mr. Rizzo had referenced for consistency. I think when we look at individual teacher scores, there's a lot to consider. I think that even placement of students makes a big difference. So we know that strategically student scores are looked at and that's how they're placed. And I think if we were going to start looking at individual teachers and what's successful, to me, that is not a good curricular decision moving forward. I would like to look at, from a district perspective, what can be utilized consistently for improvement. I think that going back to what was originally thought for the goals, the three items that Mr. Rizzo, the consistent structured program, the grammar and writing, the reading strategies, looking at that goal. Certainly the recommendation for the core program of Pearson's My Perspectives, I think absolutely meets that goal. At this point, I think in the revision and the refinement stage of curriculum and resources, I'd really like to see some consistency, also giving K-5 the opportunity to look at supplemental resources. I appreciate, Mr. Reese, you looking at what you're able to do in your building budget, and I absolutely support that. But I think at this time, it's really important for me to establish that core curriculum using Pearson's My Perspectives, giving a year under the belt, and then seeing what additional resources are needed. So at this point, I absolutely support your recommendation, Mr. Rizzo, Mr. Reese, for My Perspectives, and my vote will be to hold off on the supplementals.
Basically, these are digital textbooks, correct? How do we know, my kids have textbooks and they're hardly ever open. How do we know these will be used?
Are these questions that you have for K-5?
I'm questioning right here, number grade 6.
I would think if you understand curriculum instruction, that would be consistent.
It's common sense will tell you some things that I guess I know how textbooks sometimes are not used. And how do we know they're going to be used? How do we know that teachers will still have access, but how do we know they're going to act on using these as a textbook? I mean, as long as they're doing that, because I know many textbooks are not used throughout the school year. So why spend the money if they're not going to be used? Common sense will tell you, let's do something that's working. Let's talk to each other and see what teachers are making things happen, and let's use what they're doing. So.
How did you get, Mr. Reese, from 10.5 to 3,000? So what are we giving up from last week to this week? And if you're not the right person to ask that question, I apologize.
No, it was, going into the curriculum cycle, we were looking at ways to try to free up some building money that was already being contributed to the ELA department. And that's where the 10,005 originated from. Taking back what's through the building and through our Renaissance program, we're able to decrease the number. So it's not really giving up, it's just where the money's coming from.
So we'd still get the exact same number of books as we did last week, as this week? You just found a different way to finance it, or?
Correct.
Okay.
All in financing.
Yeah.
What interest are we paying today?
All in the numbers. Well, I support both of these. I think with my rant on technology and where the world's heading, I think we are headed to a much more digital world than we are paper. I think if you look how younger people read, they read more on their phones and tablets than they do with paper. I've also been on the board 8 years enough and can read body language and see that Mrs. Williams is here tonight. So I think she has a vested interest in here, because the last time I think I saw you, it was, what were we chewing on? What was that book?
Oh, chew on this?
Yeah, Chew on This, yes. And Mrs. Williams, you were one of the finalists for Teachers of the Year in Pennsylvania. You are one of our best ELA teachers, if not the best. I wish we had 162 of you to put in all our classrooms. I think you do things a little bit unorthodox by some of your things, but I think it works. And I am blessed that my two children have had you for a classroom teacher. They both, if they were here, would say you are the best English teacher they ever had. And so whatever you're doing is working, and if we need to pay a couple extra shingles to get results in an area that we don't do very well on our test scores, and I think if we pulled out the test scores tonight, we would see that you are our shining star in the middle school. So I want to thank you. I hope you don't go away disappointed. I don't know where this note's coming. I wasn't included on the emails that flirted around earlier this week, so a lot of this stuff is brand new to me. But I also know when somebody in this board splits an agenda item, there's a reason, and the reason usually is to shoot something down. But I'm here to support you and everything you've done, and thank you again for what you've done for all the children of this school district.
Mr. Reeston, Mr. Rizzo, I just am trying to narrow this in, so maybe you already said it, but is administration recommending item D and E?
Yes.
I'm gonna put my 2 cents in. Long time ago, I had a teacher named Joe Sale. Now, I don't know how many of you know Joe Sale, but he introduced me to books. And needless to say, I was not much of a reader in school. I'd rather be outside on a playground than being stuck inside a classroom reading a book. However, he was so passionate about the books we read. To this day, there's quotes in the book. And I'm thinking to myself, we're looking at $3,000, and I preach to my nieces and my nephews and my niece, that to be successful, you got to be a reader. It's, you know, you look at SAT scores, and I guarantee you, I'll put a reader to take that test, and they're going to do better than a non-reader. It's just the game. And how do you got to get them in love with books. So if I can spend, thank you, Brad, $3,000 instead of $10,000 to either read Chew or whatever book you want to read and get kids excited, I'm all for it. I just believe in that. And, you know, I thank Joe Sale to this day, because I wasn't here on Tuesday, because my dear aunt gave me what she had, so I was sicker than a dog. And would you believe the only thing I did the whole time was I read. And if somebody would have told me that I would become a reader, I would say, yeah, right. But I did. And I thank Joe Sale for that. And I know I'm showing my age, and it's more than 40 plus, okay? But, so I thank you, both of you, for supporting D&E, because I think it's important to kids. And, you know, I hope that happens in our elementary schools, and I hope supplemental materials come into elementary schools. But if we got to start somewhere, I'm all for it.
Any other discussion?
I had something to say, Mr. Rizzo. It kind of echoes Beth Ekman's question, but I mean, this was your job to tackle, and you did a great job presenting. So my question would be, as the leader of this project, you do recommend D and E.
Yes.
The only reason because when you talked about E, I actually put note, you said that teachers recommend this. You didn't actually say you did, so that's why I just wanted to, and I wasn't here last week, I guess if you talked about this a little bit last week, but I thought I heard you say you didn't include these last week, and then teachers recommended, so that's why you added them. But this was your baby, and if you're recommending it, then that's your job, and I would support it. So you guys both recommend E also.
I just want to clarify that both D and E have gone through the same approval process. So they started at the committee level, went through the curriculum director, went through the director of secondary ed, went through the superintendent, and now are in front of you. So for all intents and purposes, they both come with the same level of thumbs up as the other. They've gone through the same process.
Okay.
Do you know why they were added, the supplementals were added late to the agenda? Dr. Bell, can you address that?
I think that through the whole process, there were, and I'll be as honest as, and hopefully this makes sense, throughout the whole process in the middle, looking at the middle school resources, we use the word wish list a lot. That's kind of what I got, a wish list, constant, never-ending wish list. And it was my job, in my opinion, to go through that wish list and take out things that I thought, not that anything wasn't good, but to be fiscally responsible, to make good judgment calls and not just put everything forward. I had to go through that through conversations with Mr. Reese and that research process in eliminating certain things. These resources were around throughout most of the process, throughout the majority of the process. I'll be honest, and maybe this is the wrong thing to say, but through my research, I wasn't spending countless hours looking at vocabulary. And that's no disrespect to vocabulary. That's no disrespect to 100 words every middle schooler should use. I wasn't calling districts about those resources. I just wasn't. I was digging into the big boy resources, my perspectives, and the writing coach. So, in hindsight, and again, I'll take accountability. I should have maybe took that approach differently and treated them all equally. But I thought the greatest need in sixth grade, the greatest need is in sixth grade because of that transition. This, in my opinion, is the greatest need. There needs to be a unified product that teachers can refer to. The writing coach is helping. And again, there were requests for 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. All good requests. Just again, trying to make responsible decisions. I can't just put everything forward. The writing coach I thought was a very valid, strong component. So I don't know if that answers any question. There are obviously, I think, teachers that will use, well, the goal is every teacher will use these resources. I mean, to put something forward and to approve something that, I know somebody just said it, if it's just sitting to the side, that would be extremely disappointing. Like any resource, none of this should just drive instruction. Whether it's the writing workshop, whether it's using the book, we can't, good teachers don't just open up pages and go from 1 to 400. I mean, you're not hitting your curriculum, you're not hitting those standards. The goal is to put these resources in the hands of our teachers and have our teachers, just have some more weapons to pull from. So again, I don't know if that answers the question. My focus and my time and effort went more, and again, maybe that was wrong, I take full accountability. It went more into the big products. The vocabulary, the 100 words, and providing resources to the teacher's library are very good resources, and I think they're going to help our teachers. I did not spend as much time. It was not even, and I'll be, again, very clear and very honest about that.
I think every classroom teacher, K to 12, would love to build their classroom libraries with $3,000. But I caution the board, if we allow $3,000 for 6th grade books, this is opening up the can. This is not a consistent program. This doesn't go back to our original goals of while I do think that classroom library and self-selection, I could sit here all night and talk about the importance of that. However, this is not something, if you've taken the time to look, it's $600 for vocabulary for a 1-year subscription. If you take the time to go on, we got this information last week, if you go on, it's a fun resource. This is not the caliber of the $21,000 that we're looking at for Reading Coach with quality, rigorous assessments. We are going to open up a can for every teacher to start saying, but I want. This is not the same. The other thing is, while this resource is very good, this is not something that is core curriculum, again, not on the same caliber of something that has been researched as a core curriculum. You have to think of every caliber of teacher, your best and your teacher that needs the most support. For consistency, as a board, we need to look at improvement of our middle school, and building a classroom library for 6th grade is not going to do that.
The classroom library is for all grades.
6
Six
through 8, 3,000 for
3,000 total for the building.
the whole building.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Clara.
Any other comment before I? Okay.
I'm sorry, can I just be clear, because that was an important point that we just made. So when you're looking at item E, you were talking about 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, because it does not say that on my agenda.
Classroom library intent with $3,000 is for grades 6 through 8. That's what I was clarifying.
Okay.
And that's only for this next year. We will revisit it again next year, correct?
However you'd like to proceed. In the past, when items have been passed through a curriculum cycle, the understanding is that that would be in effect for the time period of the adoption of the curriculum. But if this board chooses to go in a different direction, then we'll go in a different direction. If it's something that you want us to ask for every year, we can ask for it every year.
And the other thing that I will say is, one of the things that we have on as a budget is a curriculum supervisor, curriculum instruction leader. I feel like if we're going into those supplemental resources, that's something that should be driven by that individual if we go that route.
So to clarify, the 100 words is 7th grade only. The vocabulary is the building license. And then the classroom libraries are 6 to 8.
Any other comments? I just put 2 cents in here for whatever that's worth. And I certainly respect Amy for her knowledge of curriculum. I guess I'm going more on my gut feeling as a classroom teacher, and we certainly don't have the same needs as the middle school as teaching 2nd grade, but the idea of a classroom library to me is especially at $3,000 is a small price to pay to support our, because the students are going to be the beneficiaries of that. We're getting those other two things as little bonuses to me, the vocabulary and the 100 words. So, and I look at if the administration has reviewed this and they feel that it is part of their overall recommendation, I'm going to obviously honor that. So I think I will vote for it, just as a clarification.
I just want to make sure it's for just this year.
I think we can bring it back
Doesn't
next year.
say that, but that's what concerns me, that we're not saying 3,000 for every year for the next 6 years.
The agenda says involves an annual cost. How do we modify that?
Change the agenda.
Is that going to make a motion?
Should we vote for D first?
I agree, get D out of the way.
Okay. Are we done discussing?
Yes.
Item D?
Second?
I'll say discussion, but I think we've discussed it. All right, call a vote.
England,
Yes.
Heckman,
Yes.
Sal,
Yes.
Gray,
Yes.
Bixler,
Yes.
Hack,
Yes.
Erdman,
Yes.
Lund,
Yes.
Murray.
Yes.
All in favor.
I move item E.
Second?
Unless somebody wants to.
Do we want to, do we vote for it, and if it doesn't pass, then we change it, or do we just change it, or what's the
Any way you want.
second? Okay, so then do we have to vote on it? Okay, any discussion?
Well, my discussion would be, if it would be voted no, can we reword it?
Yep.
So we're voting on it being an annual cost every year for the next 6 years. So that's, okay.
No, you're voting on an annual cost every 4 years. Your curriculum cycle's every 4 years.
Okay, so for the next 4 years, $3,000 per year.
$4,000.
Right. That's what this costs right here.
Okay, call the vote.
Heckman,
Yes.
Sal,
No.
Gray,
Yes.
Bixler,
Yes.
Hack,
Yes.
Erdman,
No.
Lund,
Yes.
Murray,
Yes.
England,
No.
6-3, motion carries.
Move item F.
Second?
Discussion? Daydreaming. Call the vote.
Sal,
Yes.
Gray,
Yes.
Bixler,
Yes.
Hack,
Yes.
Erdman,
Yes.
Lund,
Yes.
Murray,
Yes.
England,
Yes.
Heckman.
Yes.
All in favor.
Item G.
Second?
Discussion? Call the vote.
Bixler,
Yes.
Hack,
Yes.
Erdman,
Yes.
Lund,
Yes.
Murray,
Yes.
England,
Yes.
Heckman,
Yes.
Sal,
Yes.
Gray. All in favor.
Move item H.
Question, do we need to officially vote on allowing the students to go on the field trip, or did we take that last week? And then with this, today we got a letter from, and I know it doesn't do with graduation, but it does with exchange students where they want an exchange student who doesn't meet our minimum age requirement. I think it'd be nice in some form to get back to that individual, so they don't need to wait. And know what the answer is. So I'm not sure where we do that, but that would be my thoughts.
Would we put that under new business?
We can.
Did I say second?
I'm sorry, what?
We can.
Okay.
Discussion.
Discussion? Call the vote.
Hack,
Yes.
Erdman,
Yes.
Lund,
Yes.
Murray,
Yes.
England,
Yes.
Heckman,
Yes.
Sal,
Yes.
Gray,
Yes.
Bixler.
Yes.
All in favor.
Move item I.
Second?
Discussion? Call the vote.
Erdman,
Yes.
Lund,
Yes.
Murray,
Yes.
England,
Yes.
Heckman,
Yes.
Sal,
Yes.
Gray,
Yes.
Bixler,
Yes.
Hack.
Yes.
All in favor.
And that takes care of, except for the discussion, I I guess, Dave, you had some concerns that you wanted to discuss about the PSSA situation.
I have two areas of concerns. The first involves the students. This is an extremely important test, the PSSAs, and we use those for more than just a number. I'm under the impression